The wind carried snow through the broken streets of Silver Pine Ridge, whispering against shuttered doors and half-frozen lanterns. It was the kind of cold that bit deep, the kind that remembered blood. And tonight it remembered her. Mara Thorne moved through the blizzard with her hood low, her boots crunching through ice and ash. The townsfolk parted for her like she was made of fire, not from respect but fear. Someone spat as she passed. "Witch's daughter." Another hissed, "Don't look at her eyes." She kept her gaze down, though the words burned. She'd learned long ago that answering only made it worse. She was 17 and already an exile in her own home, the cursed daughter of the woman who had burned beneath the moon. And tonight, as the snowstorm swallowed the last light from the town, the curse that had haunted her blood for years began to stir. She reached the edge of the ridge where the mountains rose sharp as knives, black against the white horizon. Below, the forest stretched endless and wild, its heart pulsing faintly with moonlight. That was where he lived, the beast they all feared, the alpha who ruled the north with teeth and fire. They said his name in whispers, Kellen Dare. They said he killed for trespass, that his wolves could smell guilt like smoke. Mara wasn't sure she believed in monsters, until the night she became one. It began with the blood. She'd been gathering wood behind the ruined chapel when her hand slipped. The blade sliced deep, a clean, bright cut. Her breath caught, a gasp of pain fogging the air. Then she saw it. The blood that welled from her palm wasn't red. It glowed faintly silver, like moonlight trapped in liquid form. Her heart slammed. No! Curse! It had come early. The wind rose around her, howling through the trees. The air shimmered once, twice, before the sound reached her. Growl. Whoa. Too close. Mara spun. Shadows shifted beyond the trees. Tall, moving, fast. The smell of pine and iron filled her nose. She stumbled back, clutching her bleeding hand. Who's there? Silence. Don't run. The voice was male. Rough. Low as thunder. Her pulse spiked. Show yourself. A figure stepped from the dark. Tall, broad-shouldered, his cloak dusted with snow. His eyes caught the moonlight, gold, unnatural, burning. Her breath froze in her chest. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I could say the same. He stepped closer. The snow didn't seem to touch him. It melted as it fell. Mara backed up until her spine hit the chapel wall. What do you want? He stopped just out of reach, tilting his head. Your blood. Her heart stuttered. He saw her fear and smiled faintly. Not cruel, not kind, just tired. You're bleeding, Silver. She pressed her hand tighter. It's nothing. It's everything. He took another step, his voice dropping lower. Do you know what that means? She shook her head. No. It means you're not cursed, Mara Thorne. His golden eyes held hers, steady and devastating. It means you're mine. For a heartbeat the world stopped. Her pulse roared in her ears. What did you say? He studied her, the snow swirling between them like smoke. That blood, it's wolf blood. Ancient. Bound to mine. You're lying. If I were, he said softly, you'd already be dead. The air grew heavy. The wind stilled. Mara's hands trembled as she stepped sideways, her back scraping the frozen stone. You don't even know me. I don't have to. He moved closer until she could see the faint scar along his jaw, the tension in his throat, the way his breath fogged in rhythm with hers. Do you feel it? He murmured. The pull. She wanted to say no. She wanted to shove him away, to run. But beneath her fear, something answered. A heat in her chest. A thrum beneath her skin. I don't want this, she said, voice shaking. He smiled, sad and knowing. Neither did I. The sound came before the scream, the sharp crack of branches, the echo of hooves, the rush of human scent. Hunters. Kellen turned sharply, his body tense. Get down. Mara hesitated. Why? An arrow flew past her ear, embedding itself in the wall behind her. Kellen moved. He was faster than she could follow. One moment man, the next a blur of motion. The sound of bone shifting, of breath breaking, filled the air. When the first hunter stepped into the clearing, he saw only the beast. The wolf that legends had made and men had tried to kill. Kellen tore through them like a storm. Mara screamed as one fell at her feet, blood staining the snow. The alpha turned, his eyes blazing gold, his teeth bared, and for one terrible moment she thought he would strike her too. But he didn't. He stopped inches from her, chest heaving, breath steaming in the cold air. Her heart hammered. "You're a monster." "Maybe," he said. "But now you're bound to one." He looked down at her bleeding hand, then at his claws, slick with red. He lifted his palm, and their blood mixed where the moonlight struck it, red and silver, curling together like smoke. The ground trembled. The wind howled. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then Kellen's body shuddered. He dropped to his knees in the snow before her. Mara froze. "What are you doing?" His voice came rough, shaking. "Swearing an oath. To what?" He looked up, gold eyes bright with something raw and reverent. "To the blood that binds us." Snow fell between them, soft and endless. Mara stood trembling, staring down at the beast who had brought men to ruin, the alpha of Silverpine, kneeling in the cold like a man before his fate. "You can't mean this," she whispered. "I do," he said simply. "The moon has chosen." And somewhere deep in her bones she felt it too. The pull, the heat, the bond she couldn't deny. The curse wasn't a curse at all. It was a beginning. And it had just called her home. Dawn crept slowly over Silverpine Ridge, spilling pale light across the forest's edge where the snow still clung to the roots. The storm had passed, leaving the world quiet, too quiet. Mara Thorne sat by the frozen river, her cloak drawn tight, her hands trembling despite the fire at her side. The blood on her palm had stopped glowing, but she could still feel it pulsing faintly beneath the skin, like something sleeping and waiting to wake. She stared at her reflection in the ice. Same face, same gray eyes. But something else had taken root behind them, wild, unfamiliar, alive. Behind her the air shifted. "You haven't eaten," came Kellen's voice, low and rough. She didn't turn. "I wasn't hungry." "You should be," he said. "You lost blood." "I'm fine." The snow crunched softly as he stepped closer. The smell of pine and smoke filled the air, his scent sharp and grounding. He stopped beside her, crouching so that his reflection joined hers in the ice. His golden eyes burned even in the morning light. "You shouldn't have followed me," she said. "You bled silver in my territory," he answered calmly. The bond made its claim. Mara looked up sharply. "Stop saying that. I didn't choose it. Neither did I." "Then break it." He met her gaze. "I can't." "Why not?" Kellen hesitated. "Because it isn't just blood. It's the moon's will." Her breath caught. "I don't believe in fate. Fate doesn't care." Mara stood abruptly, the movement sharp, defiant. "I don't belong to you." He rose too, his shadow falling over hers. "You think I want this?" She blinked. "Don't you?" His jaw tightened. "You're a curse to them," he said, nodding toward the distant town. "But to me you're something far worse." She flinched. "Then why protect me?" "Because I have to." The words came like a confession, heavy, weary, almost angry at the truth they carried. The wind stirred between them. Mara looked away, her throat tight. "Then you're bound by pity." Kellen's voice softened, almost a growl. "No, by blood." They traveled north that day, away from the town that hated her and the hunters that haunted him. The woods deepened, the trees closing in until the sky was just a pale line above them. Kellen moved silently, every step sure and deliberate. He didn't look back often, but she could feel it when he did. A faint tug beneath her ribs, the bond like an invisible thread between them. When she stumbled, he caught her wrist before she fell. The warmth of his hand burned through her glove. "Careful," he murmured. She pulled back quickly, heart pounding. Don't touch me. He didn't argue. Then walk faster. By nightfall they reached the den. It wasn't what she expected. Not a cave or a ruin, but a small cabin built against the cliffside, its walls carved from stone and cedar. Smoke drifted from the chimney. "This is where you live?" she asked softly. Kellen nodded. "When I'm not running." She stepped inside first. The heat from the fire hit her like a wave. Furs lined the floor. The scent of wolf and ash lingered in the air. He followed, closing the door behind them. "You can sleep there." He nodded toward the bed. "Where will you sleep?" He shrugged. "I don't." Mara frowned. "You don't sleep. Wolves don't dream well," he said simply. Something in his tone, the tiredness, the edge of grief, made her pause. "What happens when you do?" she asked quietly. He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "I see the dead." The words sent a chill through her. "Your pack." He nodded once. "The ones I couldn't save." Her voice softened. "And now you think saving me will make up for it?" Kellen's eyes lifted, gold catching firelight. "No," he said. "It'll make the next death hurt less." Mara stared at him, heart twisting. He wasn't the monster the town had warned her about. He was something worse. A man who had already lost everything and still stood anyway. Later, while he sat sharpening his blade by the fire, she paced the small space, restless. The storm outside had returned, soft and steady, tapping against the wooden walls like fingers. Finally she spoke. "The night my mother died, they said she cursed the town. That her blood burned with moonlight." Kellen didn't look up. "She wasn't cursing them. She was protecting you." Mara froze. "How would you know that?" He met her gaze, eyes flickering with something unreadable. "Because I was there." The world stopped. "What?" He set down the blade. "I saw her when the flames took her. She was trying to contain the bond. To keep it from finding you." Mara's voice shook. "You knew her." "I knew what she was." She took a step toward him. "What was she?" Kellen exhaled slowly. "The first bond-bearer. The link between human and wolf. The curse and the cure in one." Mara's pulse raced. "And me." He looked into her eyes. "You're the one she hid. The last of her line." The fire flickered between them, painting their faces in red and gold. Mara's hands trembled. "So what does that make me?" Kellen stood, his shadow rising over hers. "It makes you the reason the moon still rises." She backed away, shaking her head. "No, I don't want this. I just want to be normal." His tone was soft, almost pitying. "There's no such thing anymore, Mara." Her voice cracked. "Then what am I supposed to do?" He looked at her, something like sorrow in his eyes. "Survive long enough to choose what side you're on." That night Mara couldn't sleep. The storm's rhythm matched the one beneath her ribs, the heartbeat that wasn't quite hers. When she finally opened her eyes again, the cabin was dark. But Kellen was awake. He sat by the fire, his head bowed, the moonlight touching his hair. He looked almost human then, almost gentle. Mara watched him quietly. The longer she looked, the less she hated him for what he'd said. Because beneath the blood, the curse, and the bond, he looked just as lost as she felt. And though she didn't understand it, her chest ached for him. Outside the storm broke. The clouds split open, revealing a full white moon. Kellen stiffened, his breath catching. Mara rose slowly. "What is it?" He turned, his eyes glowing gold again. "The bond's shifting." She stepped closer. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said through clenched teeth, "someone else has felt it too." "Someone else?" He nodded once. "The other packs. The ones that killed your mother." Her heart stuttered. "They're coming." He met her gaze, the alpha burning through his human form now, wild and fierce. "They'll come for you. And they'll kill everything in their way to get what's in your blood." She swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" Kellen stood, his voice low, certain. We make them kneel first. The forest was burning. It wasn't fire that lit the night, but moonlight, fierce and white, pouring through the clouds as if the heavens themselves had split open. The wolves of Silver Pine Ridge howled beneath it, their voices echoing through the trees, sharp as grief and old rage. And in the heart of the chaos stood Mara Thorne, her silver blood streaking her hands like mercury. The power had come again, unbidden, uncontrolled. She could feel the heartbeat under her skin, not hers, not entirely, thrumming in time with the rhythm of the storm. Her veins glowed faintly, every pulse a reminder that something ancient was waking inside her. The curse, they called it. But she was starting to think it had another name. Breathe, Kellen said. He stood before her, his hair damp with sweat, his eyes burning gold beneath the flickering firelight. You have to control it. I can't. Yes, you can. Mara's voice broke. You don't understand, it's not me. It's her. Kellen took a slow step closer. Then make her listen. The air around them shimmered, silver mist rising from the snow. The smell of iron filled the clearing. Somewhere beyond the ridge, wolves cried out, warning, mourning, waiting. Mara dropped to her knees, clutching her head. She's too strong. Kellen knelt beside her, his hand gripping her shoulder. His touch was grounding, steady, the only thing that kept her from breaking apart completely. Look at me, he said. She did. And in his eyes she saw the reflection of herself. Wild, luminous, terrifying. Tell me what you see, he whispered. Death. He shook his head. No, life. That's what power looks like when men are afraid of it. Her breath caught. You don't know what it's like, feeling her move inside me. It's like drowning in light. He smiled faintly, grim and soft. Then I'll be your anchor. The truth had shattered everything. Kellen had found her after the battle, his face as pale as moonlight, his voice shaking when he said the name. Ronan Vale. The Blood Alpha. The first to kneel before the moon and the last to defy it. The one her mother had bound her to, long before Mara was born. 2 alphas. 1 bloodline. 1 bond. The curse had never been hers. Had been their war. Now the war had come for her. The forest erupted around her, wolves pouring through the trees, their eyes glowing red instead of gold, their breath hot in the frozen air. Mara stumbled into a clearing and turned just in time to see him emerge from the shadows. Ronan Vale. Barefoot. Half shifted, his claws glinting in the stormlight. His face both beautiful and monstrous. His eyes, blood-red and endless, locked on hers. There you are, he said softly. His voice was like silk dragged across steel. Mara backed up. Stay away. He smiled faintly, stepping closer. You've been hiding in the wrong wolf's shadow. I don't belong to anyone. He tilted his head, studying her. That's not what the moon says. Lightning split the sky. The scent of ash and iron filled the air. Kellen burst from the tree-line, landing between them in a blur of motion. His teeth were bared, his body trembling with rage. Back, he growled. Ronan's grin widened. You always were the obedient one, Kellen. Kellen's claws sank into the dirt. You shouldn't be here. Neither should she. Mara's heart hammered. What do you want from me? Ronan's gaze flicked to her. Everything. He took a step forward, the snow hissing under his feet. You're the last link, the living key. The bond between Alpha and Moon. When you bleed, the old laws die with you. Kellen snarled. You won't touch her. Ronan chuckled. Touch her. Brother, I don't need to. Her soul already knows mine. Mara shook her head. No. Yes, Ronan whispered. You feel it, don't you? The pull beneath your skin. The part of you that calls to me. And she did. Horribly, undeniably, she felt it. The echo of his heartbeat inside her, dark and magnetic, like gravity turned into blood. Kellen saw the flicker in her eyes and stepped closer, placing himself fully between them. Fight it, Mara. I'm trying, she whispered. Ronan laughed, low and cruel. You can't fight what you are. He raised his hand, and the ground trembled. Wolves poured from the shadows, snarling, circling. The air thickened with magic. Kellen's voice dropped to a growl. You'll have to go through me first. That was always the plan, Ronan said. The two alphas collided. The sound was thunder made flesh, claws meeting steel, teeth tearing through fur. The ground split beneath their weight. Blood streaked the snow, black and shining. Mara screamed. She tried to run to them, but the wolves surrounded her, red-eyed, snarling, waiting. One lunged. She turned, raising her hands without thinking, and silver light exploded from her palms. The wolf disintegrated midair. The others hesitated. Mara's pulse pounded in her skull. The power surged again, hot and furious, begging to be unleashed. But she remembered her mother's words. When the moon bends to your will, run. She didn't run. She stepped forward. The light spread from her hands, spiraling outward in ribbons that cut through the mist. The wolves shrieked and fell back. The air shimmered, not with power but with truth. Kellen faltered, blood streaking his face, his breath ragged. Ronan towered over him now, his claws sinking into the snow beside Kellen's head. This is how it ends, Ronan hissed. Mara's voice rang out across the clearing. No. Both alphas turned. Her hair whipped in the wind, her eyes burning silver. The light around her wasn't wild anymore. It was steady, deliberate. The moon doesn't decide for me, she said. You don't either. She lifted her hand. The blood on her palm glowed. I break the bond. Ronan's face twisted. You can't. I can. She pressed her glowing hand against her heart. The world went white. The bond snapped. Kellen's cry split the storm. Ronan staggered back, clutching his chest. The ground trembled as power tore through the valley, the sound of something ancient dying and something new being born. Mara fell to her knees, gasping, the light flickering out. Her blood hit the snow and turned it silver. Kellen crawled to her, catching her before she collapsed. Mara, he whispered, voice breaking. Look at me. He did barely. Her eyes were fading from silver to gray. It's done, she said softly. You're free. He shook his head. Not if it costs you. Her smile was faint, trembling. Freedom always costs. He pulled her against him, his hand pressed to her back, his heart pounding against hers. Don't do this. She closed her eyes. I already have. Behind them, Ronan screamed, a sound that ripped through the forest as the moon itself split the clouds. His body turned to shadow, burning into ash that scattered with the wind. And when he was gone, the world went quiet again. Kellen held her in the snow, his breath fogging against her skin. The bond was gone, but he could still feel her heartbeat faintly, flickering, fragile. Mara, he whispered, stay. She smiled faintly, her voice barely there. You finally said please. And then her body went still. The snow fell softly over them, covering the blood, the scars, the end of a curse that had lasted generations. When the sun rose, the wolves found him kneeling in the clearing, her body in his arms. They didn't speak. They bowed. Even the wind seemed to still, as if the forest itself was mourning. He didn't weep. He just looked at her face, memorizing it. Then, slowly, he lifted her and walked toward the ridge, the same place where they had first met beneath the chapel's ruins. He laid her there, beneath the frozen moonlight, her silver blood gleaming like stars. And as the wolves howled their morning song, Kellen whispered against her hair. You were never my curse. You were the only thing that made me human. The storm passed. Spring came to Silver Pine Ridge for the first time in 20 years. But Kellen never left the mountains. They said he stayed by the ridge, silent, unaging, guarding the place where the snow never melted and the wildflowers grew silver instead of white. And on some nights when the moon rose full and bright, the wolves said they heard a voice in the wind, soft, fierce, eternal. Mur's voice, saying the same words that had ended the old world and begun the new. The moon doesn't decide for me. The snow had melted from the ridge. For the first time in a generation, Silver Pine Valley was green. The rivers ran clear, the pines breathed mist instead of ash, and the wolves no longer howled for war. The air was heavy with the scent of renewal, wet earth, thawed moss, sunlight on cold stone. The curse had broken. But peace came like a wound trying to close, slow, tender, always aching. At the edge of the forest, where the moonlight once burned the trees white, the Alpha walked alone. Kellen Dare. His golden eyes had dimmed over the years, the fire in them gentler now. He ruled still, but not as he had before. The pack called him the Quiet Wolf, because he no longer commanded with growls or claws. He led with silence. He hadn't spoken her name in years, but he thought it every day. Mura, the girl who had rewritten the world. The curse who had become its cure. That morning, Kellen stood beside the river. The current was strong, sparkling with light. Beneath the water's surface, silver stones glimmered faintly, remnants of the moon's tears, the last trace of her blood. He knelt and touched the water. It was cold and alive. "She's everywhere," he murmured. A rustle came from behind him. "You always say that," said a voice. He turned. Alric, his second in command, stood there. Older now, streaks of gray running through his dark hair. "It's true," Kellen said. Alric smiled faintly. "The others think you talk to ghosts. Maybe I do." The older wolf stepped closer. "We have visitors. A clan from the southern ridge. They say the moon's light is changing again." Kellen's brow furrowed. "Changing? They claim the nights are shorter. The moon rises silver but fades red before dawn." He straightened. "That's not possible." "Then come see for yourself." That night, they gathered at the cliffs above the valley. The wolves sat in a wide circle, the air cold and still. Clouds shifted over the horizon, and then the moon rose. Silver as always, soft and perfect. But as the hours passed, its color began to change. From white to amber, amber to gold, gold to crimson. The wolves murmured, restless. Kellen stared up, his pulse quickening. The sight clawed at something deep inside him. Memory, longing, fear. He whispered her name before he could stop himself. "Mara." The wind shifted. It came down the mountain in a single breath, carrying the scent of rain and wildflowers, her scent. Kellen's heart stopped. Then he saw her. At the far edge of the clearing, beyond the circle of firelight, a figure stood in the trees, cloaked in white. His first thought was dream. His second was impossible. But when she stepped forward, the moonlight touched her hair, and the world fell away. It was her. Older maybe. Paler. But her. The same eyes. The same soft fire. "Tell me I'm not seeing her," Alric whispered. Kellen didn't answer. He was already moving. He crossed the clearing in seconds, the wolves parting without a word. When he stopped a few feet from her, he didn't dare speak. He just looked, afraid that if he blinked she'd vanish again. She smiled faintly. "Hello, Kellen." His voice broke. "You're real." "I think so," she said softly. "The moon sent me back." He took a slow breath, his chest trembling. "Why?" "To see what I made." He laughed once, quiet and disbelieving. "The world's still standing." "Barely," she said, looking around. "But it's beautiful." Kellen's eyes burned. "I buried you." "I know. I stayed." "I know that too." She stepped closer, her hand lifting slightly, hesitant as if she wasn't sure she should touch him. "You've grown older." He smiled. "You haven't. Death does that." He caught her hand before she could pull it back. The moment their skin met, the bond flared, not in pain this time but in light. A gentle pulse. Heartbeat. His knees almost buckled. "Mara," he whispered, his voice raw. "I thought the bond died with you." "It did," she said. "But the moon doesn't like endings." He laughed quietly, the sound half broken. "Neither did you." Her eyes softened. You remember. I remember everything. They walked to the ridge together, where the snow had melted into a field of silver flowers. The air was still, the stars bright. This is where you laid me, she said. Yes. She knelt, running her fingers over the ground. It doesn't hurt anymore. Kellen sat beside her, watching the light spill across her face. What are you now? She smiled faintly. Not alive. Not gone. The moon made me her keeper, to walk between worlds until the blood debt is forgotten. And when it is, I rest. He looked at her, his voice low. You deserve peace. So do you. I had it, he said. Once. She turned toward him, eyes bright with tears. You can have it again. The curse is broken. Packs are free. The world is yours now. He shook his head. The world means nothing without you in it. The wind caught her hair. The flowers around them shimmered, silver petals bending toward her. Kellen, she whispered. If you say my name again, I'll stay. He met her eyes, golden and fierce even in the dark. Then stay. Her breath caught. You'll regret it. I already regret every moment I didn't fight harder for you. And when he kissed her, the world shifted. The moon blazed white again. The wind died. The earth exhaled. The bond that had been broken re-wove itself. Not cursed, not forced, but chosen. 2 heartbeats. 1 rhythm. The moon's light settled over them, and the wolves below began to howl. Not in mourning, but in blessing. By dawn she was still there. The pack found their alpha sitting among the flowers, his arm around the woman who had once ended the world. They didn't bow this time. They smiled. Because they understood. This was not the return of a curse. It was the birth of a new order, not ruled by blood or bond, but by choice. Years later, when the legends were retold, they said the moon had bent lower that night than ever before. Not to curse, but to listen. They said an alpha knelt not before power, but before love. And that the girl once called the curse became the one who taught the wolves mercy. Because some bonds, once broken, return not to bind, but to heal. And under the endless, forgiving light of the moon, Kellen and Mara built the new world together. Not as alpha and curse, but as equals, as love reborn.